From the arena to the front office, this is Scoreboard. I'm Chris Titley, and each episode brings you stories from the game of sport, where mindset, money, and meaning shape what comes next. Athletes, coaches, owners, and business leaders unpack the moments that matter, because the scoreboard isn't just about winning, it's about life beyond the game. This episode is powered by Swyftx, Australia's top-rated crypto exchange and proudly homegrown, just like many of the athletes and business leaders we feature on Scoreboard. Now let's get to today's episode.
Hi, it's Chris Titley here, and on today's episode of Scoreboard, the podcast, I'm joined by Daniel Ferretti, the sales manager at Tennis Australia. Daniel, great to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me, Chris. Happy to be here.
Daniel, we're sitting here on Thursday, the 3rd of July in the afternoon. How's your day been, mate? And also, how's your 2025 shaped up so far?
Yeah, it's been fantastic. I mean, we kicked off the year with our biggest and best Australian Open to date, and it always makes my job easier as a sales manager when things run smoothly in January and people are very open to coming back. And this time of the year, a lot of people are heading overseas or on holidays through the winter. So there's a bit of a slow period, but we've had a big start to the year and we're expecting a lot more uptake over spring.
Daniel, how do you plan your year around sort of peak hour traffic in December, January perhaps, and then a little bit of a lull, etc., and then it picks up and then you all stations go?
Yeah, it's a funny question. I mean, my whole role is based around the Australian Open, so people often joke that I work for 1 month a year. But, you know, post-Australian Open, we have a pretty thorough debrief on everything that we operate. We talk to all of our major clients that invest in the event. So we spend a fair bit of time with each and every client to get as much information as we can so that we can improve the product that we bring to market. And then we have quite an in-depth and long sales process, making sure that we have spoken to everyone in market who's interested or who could be interested in the event. But definitely this time of the year, the middle of the year, is the slowest. It gives us a chance to breathe.
Gives you a chance to breathe. Now, Daniel, your involvement in tennis, you've been at Tennis Australia, I think, for 16 and a half years or so. But where does the love of tennis come from?
Yeah, I mean, tennis has been my whole life. When I was young, it was all I wanted to do with my life. I tried to build a professional career, which is very difficult and very expensive. So when I was 16 years old, I started coaching at Tennis Australia so that I could fund my travels, so that I could get a coach. And I had a crack for a few years. I had a world ranking in singles and doubles. I travelled around the world playing. Quickly realised that my best was not going to be at any level that was going to be financially viable. So I then started focusing more on my coaching, went to uni, and 16 years later, I'm in a corporate role at Tennis Australia.
Mate, fantastic. A couple of things on that. Surely there's a little bit of a childhood memories or memories of knocking off a scalp that ended up becoming a really good tennis player?
I have a few losses that ended up being pretty good. I mean, one of the last professional tournaments I played a very young up-and-coming Nick Kyrgios in the second round of an international tournament in Bendigo. And he had beat the number one seed, Matt Reed, who's actually working with Demonor. He was only about 16 or 17, and I had qualified, won my first round, which was an ATP point at the time, meant a lot to me. And I had this young 16-year-old Nick Kyrgios second round, and I thought, great, my drawers opened up here. I could make a quarter, and I played well, and he beat me relatively convincingly. And I thought, well, mate, if a 16-year-old is making light work of me, maybe I'm not good enough to do what I thought I could at tennis. But I think it was a year later he made the quarter of Wimbledon and beat Rafa. So it wasn't actually an easy draw.
It wasn't the benchmark that you'd hoped. And then your role into starting at Tennis Australia, we talked about you've been there 16 years. What role did you start in, and what was the organisation like back then and the Australian Open back then?
Yeah, it was very different. I was a coach initially, so I started coaching pretty young at 16, and I can't even remember how I got the job. I think my sister was working at the desk here and they needed a coach, and she recommended me. Back then, we didn't have the National Training Centre that we have now. The offices of Tennis Australia were a bunker under Rod Laver Arena. There was no natural light. There would have been probably 200 full-time staff. So I still coach now, just around my role, but coaching was my main job. I think for about 5 or 6 years until I finished my commerce degree at uni, and then I worked in finance at Tennis Australia for a few years whilst also coaching. And then, eventually got lucky with an opportunity in the commercial team, which is probably the most fun part of the business.
Yeah, no, and we're on Scoreboard here, which is telling stories from the game of sport, which combines sport and business. How do you put the lens on watching sport, but then you go, actually, it's a business. My job is to be businessy, not overly sporty.
Yeah, well, what was interesting to me was, I mean, I've got a sales job, but on paper, I didn't really have sales experience, and then I realised coaching is sales. I mean, you're talking to people one on one, you're engaging with them, you're hopefully making them better, but on top of that, you're building relationships, and they have a vested interest in staying with you long term. And for me personally, it was about the scale of my impact. So I'm very passionate about the sport, and coaching I still love, but unless you're doing a squad with a few people on court, you're usually working with one person at a time. I thought that having some involvement in the commercial team provided an opportunity to build, I guess, the value that the tournament can have and how that's reinvested back into the sport. So we're very fortunate in Australia that we have a Grand Slam. It makes us a rich tennis nation, and now when you look at how we compete on the world stage, we punch above our weight. We have some of the best facility setups in the world. We've got a lot in our favour that's funded off the back of the Australian Open. So it made sense for me to have a corporate career, but it's still involved with sport, and all the people that I work with directly like the fact that I also have an attachment to the sport rather than just a salesperson who's coming off the street.
Absolutely, and you can maybe talk the technical side of things as well if anyone wants to start being really technical about the tennis court.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, most of my hosting sessions or catch-ups with clients are 45% or 50% tennis, and I do a lot with the Davis Cup team, so that always comes into it. And then there's just a little bit of business talk at the end, but it is fun to see big businesses, banks, law firms, the people who are using the package actually care about tennis and that they want to talk tennis too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Let's talk about the Australian Open, the one of the premier events in Australian sporting calendar. It's been there for many, many years. In January, just seems to getting better and bigger and bigger and better. Why? Well, what's the formula to success?
Well, I think there's a few things that we have in our favour that give us a competitive advantage. One thing is our timing. Melbourne at that time of the year really comes to life. We're far enough from Christmas where people are back from their holidays and are usually ready to start the year off and get back into work. And we're not yet into the school term. So we're in a pocket of 2 weeks that's really attractive, especially for the corporate market that we work with. Our precinct, I think where we are in Melbourne, is one of the best sports precincts in the world. Melbourne's still a young city, if you like, and it's pretty well organised, and we've built some of the best amenities walking distance from the city. So the fact that you can, if you're travelling, you can stay at some of the best hotels that we have to offer and just walk to the tennis. You can get a tram in. We have anything that you would want to enjoy around Melbourne that's pretty close by. I think that we're lucky from a tennis perspective. We're lucky to have the first major event on the calendar. So you can see even in the media there's talks of burnout in the middle of the year and seasons being quite long, and they are very long, but players have usually had an off season. They've had a chance to work on things. They've had a chance to recover, and it really builds a lot of motivation for them to start their year off well. So you put a lot of those things together, and we're lucky that we're in the position that we're in. We're in the city that we're in. We have our spot on the calendar, and we've got a lot of floor space as well. We're twice as big as the French Open. We're about 25% bigger in terms of footprint than Wimbledon. New York's a bit bigger than us, but they're a long way out of the main city there. So we've been able to grow and expand and really take over the city. I think people think January, think Melbourne, they think the Australian Open. I think it's the biggest event in the world in January in terms of revenue, people, and its access.
Yeah, could you give us some high-level numbers on ticket sales or people through the door or people movement or the impact, as you mentioned, in terms of Melbourne and the economy?
Yeah, definitely. Well, they just released the figures a few weeks ago. So we had over 600 million. I think it was $623 million of economic impact in terms of increased spending over that period with the Summer of Tennis. Over the past 10 years in Victoria alone, it's 3.14 billion. So the government is obviously a big supporter of this event, but it's a good investment for them as well. We had 1.2 million people come through the gate. So every year it's gotten bigger and bigger. That includes week 0, which we're trying to build the qualifying week and do some exhibition matches there. But even through the main draw, we had over 1 million people come through the gate. So it's the most attended tennis event. This year was the most attended tennis event in history. So yeah, it's something that keeps growing bigger and bigger.
And that in history also compares to the US Open, Wimbledon, and the French Open, right?
Yeah, definitely. So the US Open is the one that comes closest. So every year they're breaking their attendance records, but they're still just a bit behind us. So I think we'll keep on growing. We're only going to get bigger, but yeah, we're definitely competing with them in terms of the people.
And there's probably a lot of moving parts in regards to the success of a tournament, from the popularity of the sport to the fan engagement, the fan experience. Can you talk about those different moving parts all through the calendar around, I suppose there's macro events, etc. as well, and how you manage all that and what you're focusing on to make it an event that, you know, people come back for more and more and more?
Well, I think we've developed a personality more so than the other slams. So when you look at Paris, London, New York, they're huge markets. A lot of people. I think I might be wrong, but I think there's 100 million people that are within an hour flight of each of those tournaments. While in Australia we've got about 10 million people. So the fact that we can compete and stay relevant as a Grand Slam is a testament to the amount of work that's gone behind the scenes in creating a style. And we are the happy slam. Craig, our CEO, will often say that every year we tear up 50% of what we've built and we rebuild it different. And people have come to expect that from the event. So we've got all sorts of different celebrations. We've got All Abilities Days. We've got First Nations Days. We've got Pride events. We've got a music festival now that runs, over 30,000 people just come for the music. Every year our precinct is evolving. This year we had Top Court, which was, dedicated at Gen Z and a younger demographic. So we're trying to make as much excitement and entertainment around the event so that people can come and enjoy the tennis. And sometimes they don't even come for the tennis. They come for everything else that we have to offer. But they also create this incredible atmosphere around the event. And, I was at Wimbledon last year, and as a tennis person, that was amazing to be at Wimbledon. But I went with my wife, and, after a day at Wimbledon, she was kind of like, well, that's enough Wimbledon for me. Well, at the AO, she can't get enough of it. So it really is attractive to everyone, from your tennis purist to just your general fan who wants to have fun.
Yeah, I'm thinking about the person that goes there for a bit of both, right? And the packages that are available for corporates or from people that you can take. How many options are there, I suppose, for people to go? There's a day pass, and then there's sponsorship, and there's multi-sponsorship, there's high-end sponsorship. There must be a fair plethora of that.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we're still an affordable event in terms of, I think it was 500,000 of our tickets can be purchased for under $60. So ground pass is still the main way that people will enjoy the event. And then we have a general ticket in if you want to go to one of our stadiums, courts, and they've all got roofs on them as well. So you're protected with the weather. The area that I operate in is premium experience. So that's the way that you can really engage with the event at a higher level. And we've got about 7 different tiers, if you like, of offering. So from on-court seats where, the likes of Will Smith and Will Farrell. This year we had Jackie Chan sitting there for finals, or Russell Crowe. That's a really exclusive 12 seats on the stadium. We've got something like Riverside Social, which is, a consumer-style product. You get full catering. It's an amazing bar with great atmosphere, but it's more accessible from a price point. And then we got everything in between. We've got fine dine-in. We've got private rooms. We've got all sorts of experiences that we bring to market.
And in terms of like the fine dining, the restaurants and the experiences, how do you test that, I suppose? How do you think, this could be good, this might not be good, and the feedback that you get year after year?
Well, we've got a great team here in our food and innovation team and our precinct team. I mean, they work year round. We've got our catering partner. We had a new partner this year in Levy, who are part of the Compass Group, who came in and they work year round trying to get talent, trying to make sure that we can set up our space as well. I mean, I'm on the sales front. I guess I'm talking to the clients and trying to help the products move. So there's a lot that happens behind the scenes in logistics and product delivery, and it's quite a feat to come and over 2 weeks build restaurants and staff them and have them full. It goes from 0 people to 100%, over one day. And I think this year they did an unbelievable job. But we're always spending time post-event to not just celebrate the wins, but to try and find all the areas that we think are opportunities for us to continue to develop. And it hasn't happened overnight. Since I've been involved in this team for about over 5 years, every year has gotten noticeably better, and the teams have gotten bigger, and there's more talent that we hire to make sure that things operate at the level that our clients expect.
I've got a couple of questions, very curious questions about the Will Smiths of the world, the people that come from overseas and just give me the best or do the best. Are there some odd requests, and there's some things that you've had to done to sort of vary the out of the box, I suppose, to keep these people happy that they just come in?
Yeah, we've had a lot of interesting people come over the years. So we have also a team that's more dedicated to some of the celebrity requests that come. So sometimes they come and they're happy to allow us to do some marketing around their involvement, and they get taken care of by a different team. But sometimes they want to be more discreet. A few years ago we had one of my clients was Bill Gates, and he came with his family, and they had a lot of unique bespoke security needs as well. But we did tennis clinics with him on court. So I was coaching him and his family, and we were organising all of their chauffeur servicing. We were making sure that we had routes set up underground so that they could move freely. And I mean, I think they didn't realise Australia is probably quite a bit different to the US in that sense. Like they had to
geographic.
Yeah,
a day trip to Perth, not quite feasible.
Yeah, I mean they had a whole team that were 10 steps ahead of him. While we were saying maybe he could walk and not many people would notice him in the flesh, but he had everything mapped out, and they had an amazing time. They're looking to come back hopefully in the next couple of years because of the experience that they had. But we've had a few clients who have special needs that we try and work around.
And then you talk about the premium experience, and a question to you is along the lines of if you go and experience a premium experience and you're like, this is just amazing, and you're having dinner and maybe you're having a couple of nice wines and meeting some new people and networking, and then you're like, oh, we've got to watch some tennis. How do you balance that? People that go, oh, this is great. Oh, I actually got to go and watch some tennis now.
Yeah, look, that's one of the challenges that happens. We try and schedule all our timings around so that we get the stadiums full for the matches. So a dinner service will run from 5 until 7, and then that'll finish just before the night session kicks off. The day session, there's always a little bit of interruption because they play matches through the period that people would eat lunch. You've seen at the French Open, there was a few negative articles around the fact that the best seats in the stadium are empty while people are enjoying the lunch. So we've tried to manage scheduling so that there's less interruption in that sense. But you notice tennis for the corporates, tennis ends up being a hook to get someone in front of them that's really important for them to engage with. And we have the flexibility in premium experience where it's you want to have your lunch really quickly and get out in the stadium, or we'll service that. You'll get in and out in 40 minutes and, you can watch as much tennis as you want. Or if you are having a great time engaging with your client and you've got the tennis on the TVs and you're not in a rush to get out there, then that's an option afforded to you as well. But yeah, it's interesting the fact that, we've developed now on site some of the best restaurants in the world. And you can't believe that you're sitting 50 metres from Rod Laver Arena getting ready to watch a tennis while you're enjoying, a fine dining course that you would expect anywhere in the best restaurants in the world.
And when you get feedback from the corporates and maybe they do sponsor and they say, oh, maybe we should do it next year, what's the feedback that you get that they love the most? Is it the food? Is it the atmosphere? Is it the people that they're around? Is it the tennis? Is it the players?
Yeah, I think it's all of those. So something that I've noticed is sport is quite unique. And post-COVID, people have been really looking for better ways to engage with their clients and build relationships. I think we'll witnessed with a couple of tough years there that got lost a little, and people are desperate for better engagement with their staff, for better engagement with their clients. But sport it's pure emotion. It's unscripted. It's a memory that you'll hold with you for sometimes for the rest of your life. A few years ago, I hosted over the men's final when Rafa won. I think it was 2022. He beat Medvedev, coming from 2 sets to love down to win in 5 sets, and it finished just after midnight. And I remember the guy that I hosted, he brought his 18-year-old son, who was enjoying one of his first drinks at the restaurant before the match, and I've bumped into him since then, and that's still the favourite memory he's ever had with his son, and the fact that they could watch history. And that's what sport does. You get to see people at the top of their game competing at the highest level. You don't know how it's going to end up. So it's always the tennis is the real hero. And when you're a corporate and you're inviting someone who's a big client of yours, who's very important, you've facilitated a memory that will hang on to them for a long time, and they'll always appreciate that invite. But the fact that around that we can build just the most comfortable premium settings, we can have the service at the highest level, we can have the best quality food. All of that helps just make the experience fantastic. But generally, it's not a hard job because people love the tennis, and usually we're catching up with them and they have small feedbacks on what they think could be better, but they're ready to sign on the dotted line to do it all again the next year.
Oh, isn't that fantastic? Yeah, you've got the in experience, which is your area, and the sales, etc. But then you've also got the people at home and the people around the world that are watching, and you've got innovations, and you've got things like social media where you've got clips and live scoring and all that sort of stuff. I mean, this makes the event, I suppose, desirable to be live. I've never been to the Australian Open. I would love to go at some point in time, but you watch it and you go, this is fabulous, and you can check all these different things. How important and what sort of communication do you have with other members around that to make sure that it is seamless and it is watchable at home?
Well, we've got a huge team in the commercial department. It includes media rights, it includes broadcasting, and there's so many niches in there which I don't have the expertise to know about. But we've become really a global event. This year we had 2.3 billion social impressions through the event. Now 8% of our fans that come through the gate come from overseas. Melbourne's an easy place to travel to. It's far from the rest of the world, but obviously you can get a plane into Melbourne Airport. You can get a half an hour cab ride into the city, and then you're staying in the heart of it. The media rights team has done a really good job as well in supporting different regions around the world. So we can now, with the digital innovations that are afforded to us, we can now sell different rights across different parts of the world. So something that's really interesting, again, it's not my area of expertise, but you could be selling sponsorship with on-court signage, if you like, that displays differently in different parts of the world. So it's more efficient. So people can pay to sell to a specific market rather than actually paint something on the court that shows the same everywhere in the world. And that, I think that's across the board in sport. There's more creative ways now with digital and AI to make it more efficient and make it more commercially viable. But it's a big part of the focus of the business is to make sure that we are a global event and that we attract as many visitors as possible, but also all of our digital setup is catered for all the audiences that we could have around the world.
And then you've also got the players themselves that have built their own personal brands, and there's the desire to see player X it live as well. And I suppose that wasn't around when I was growing up in terms of, following people's progress in other tournaments, etc. You could sort of loosely hear it on Wide World of Sports, but now you can get it instantly, and you can say, oh, geez, I'd just before he retires, I'd love to watch Rafa play, for instance.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're well and truly in the age of social media as well. So the influence that sports stars have on the world is huge. So you can build a real brand around yourself, around your game, and tennis players are creating big businesses around just their image and their brand. And you see Federer now is one of the most sponsored athletes in the world still, and he hasn't picked up a racket in 2 years. But yeah, you can definitely stay a lot more connected now with social media to the players that you look up to. I mean, I'm not that old, but when I was young, you didn't have Instagram or Facebook, so you were kind of hoping to watch a tournament here or there and maybe hear a media interview of your favourite player at the end, and it wasn't so connected. But now if you follow your favourite athletes on Instagram, well, they're giving you live updates every day. They're showing you parts of their life. They have a much greater pool now than they've ever had, and it's really interesting to see how it's all expanded.
And Daniel, just on that topic, the experience per se of a corporate or someone that actually wants to either meet these people or interact with these people or have dinners where they speak, etc. Some of these players, how is that? How do you form that into the packages if you do it all? And I suppose the closeness, because we do feel closer to athletes more than ever because of social media. But then actually going, oh, I saw them speak, or I got a selfie with them, or something like that.
Yeah, well, there's a whole player services team that's set up to protect the players as well. You know, there's certain areas that we as a premium experience team would love to have full access and be able to sell everything, and you know, people pay a lot of money to get very close to the players, but we also have to protect them, and the team do a really good job with that. What we have at our disposal is more the legends and past players of the event. So if you buy a big private room or even a super box, anything that's private, well, you can add to that experience the trophies. They could come to your suite and you can get the real, official AO trophies in your room, which is an amazing experience. But also we have a Legends tournament that runs alongside in the second week. We have past talent, mostly Australian, but from all over the world, and you can add a past legend to come in to meet people around there, and it's obviously it's very relevant having it during the tournament. But you might be getting ready to watch a semi-final, and you can have someone like Leighton Hewitt or Pat Rafter or anyone like that come into the room and give you really great insights about the match that you're about to watch, which is the best sort of entree to the
what an experience that would be. Like tennis on tennis, and it's like this kid in a candy store sort of thing. When it comes to, I suppose, sales and the different types of experiences and sponsorship, do you look at the Wimbledons and the US Opens and the French Open, or do you also look outside of tennis and go to other events and go, oh, that's very interesting?
Yeah, look, we definitely look around to every major event. I think that we're in a good position now where people actually look at us a lot of the time. I feel like we're market makers as well in the innovation space. Like I said before, many of the other slams have benefited from the fact that they're major global events. They have huge IP, but also there's just enormous amounts of wealth around them and a lot of people. So that can just drive a lot of demand while we've had to work really hard on innovating. But definitely we look across the board to see how other products are placed in market, what they do. But I really think over the past few years that a lot of the time people are looking at us. I think that we have a team here that pushes the boundaries and, does a fantastic job.
When it comes to pricing, obviously the cost of living crisis, there's a point of watching live sport, but there's also a premium level with sort of an experience where, like the AFL Grand Final, you kind of don't know whether it's $632 a ticket or $680 a ticket. You just want to get to the AFL Grand Final. How have you found matching supply and demand, as you talked about, maybe more demand than actual supply?
Yeah, so it's interesting because my specific area, we focus on 5% of the total amount of tickets that sell. So we focus on the very best tickets in the main stadium. And there's always a bit of contention about how expensive it is to go to Rod Laver Arena, especially in the sessions that are high demand. But you only have a certain amount of seats and you only have one final. So you have to maximise the opportunity there. I think the tournament's done a really good job in trying to make its benchmark accessible. So ground pass is a tremendous value. If you're a real tennis enthusiast, like when I was a kid growing up, we didn't have enough money to go to Rod Laver Arena and sit in the top row. So I would buy a 5-day ground pass and just go and watch people practice, watch all the, lower, seeds play on the outside courts. I'd watch qualifying. So if you love your tennis, you can get so much value. Spend $50 or $60 on a ground pass. You can have 12 or 14 hours of tennis, and it's probably the best price sports entertainment event in that regard. But if you want to sit in the first few rows of the main arena and watch a high demand match, then there's still a really strong market for that. And we found in the corporate area, the corporate dollars influence that a lot. For them, it's not about how expensive it is to get involved. It's about the impact of not being involved. And if you've set up a routine with your clients to entertain them at what is the best event that Australia has to offer in sport, or one of them, they expect that year on year, and they might be spending a huge amount of money with you, and even if the ticket prices are expensive, you get that value back by keeping that experience going.
Have you seen some corporates take up some packages, etc., and then move into becoming sponsors?
Yeah, definitely. We work a long time alongside the sponsorship team. So it's a little bit different, obviously. So they're the people that buy the IP, and we have over 30 tournament sponsors now, and usually we'll have categories that are owned by a particular sponsor, so they're exclusive in different categories. Premium experience or hospitality on site is a big part of sponsorship arrangements as well. So sometimes you'll look at companies that are investing heavily in corporate packaging, and then maybe that becomes an easier conversation to say, well, do you want to go bigger here and turn it into a sponsorship? Or we benefit a lot the other way, where there's a lot of potential sponsorship conversations happening that don't come to fruition, but maybe they want to have an involvement. We work alongside that team quite closely.
And Daniel, when it comes to the umpires and the referees and the ball kids, etc., and all the stuff that goes around, how big is the team as a whole for the Australian Open in terms of Tennis Australia's dedication to it, and also the various teams that you've talked about, the sponsorship team, the catering team? There must be a lot of teams.
Oh, there's a huge amount of teams, and I think it's such a fun event to work that what's amazing is you see the same faces every year. Sometimes it's teachers who are in their holiday period, or they take a break from work, they take leave, and they work the AO year in, year out. You get the same drivers year on year. There was that story a few years ago where Rafa always had the same guy who'd be driving him every year, who he loved. I think it's around 12,000 staff. I could be wrong there, but I think it's about 12,000 staff that work the 2 weeks of the event. Around the year, we have about 500 full-time staff at TA that are dedicated to the sport, but also a lot of them are dedicated to our summer series of tennis. But obviously the amount of people that we use through the event expands dramatically.
And the participation levels at grassroots for tennis, do you monitor them as well? There's a little bit of macro, and there's other things like paddle and pickle, etc., that sort of people are starting to pick up on a little bit as well. What's your sort of view around the macro underneath the surface stuff?
Well, we have huge teams dedicated to participation. Obviously, something that I'm very passionate about. I still coach. I still get out on court early every morning and try and have an impact on the court. The way that we position ourselves as the commercial team, if you like, is that we create the opportunities. So obviously the amount of funding that they have accessible to them is off the back of the commercial success of the event. And then there's teams that are focused on pro tour events, on professional support with upcoming players, on coach support, on facilities. In schools is a big part of our participation program, making sure that we get as many rackets out there as possible. We've embraced different versions of racket sports, if you like. Obviously, tennis is the biggest and most interested sport, especially from a viewership perspective. But if someone can get out there on a pickleball court and, it's a lot easier on the body, and it's a lot easier if you're not a seasoned player to get a good rally on a pickleball court, well, then we embrace that. So there's a lot of different versions of tennis that are coming out there, like paddle as well. It's great to see. We like to think that someone has a racket in their hand, and that's all under the umbrella of tennis.
Yes, and then they go, well, I'm interested, therefore I should go and watch and should go and view and consume, etc., and the cycle, perpetuates somewhat. Daniel, I want to talk to you about some of your own life moments here in a second. The first one is It's quite an interesting question I ask these guests, is that your favourite all-time sporting moment? Now, I'm going to guess it might be tennis, but you let me know.
Yeah, definitely tennis. I mean, I grew up, my dad was a soccer player, and he tried to get me to love soccer, and I did a little bit, but I definitely prefer tennis. I think my favourite memory is Federer winning the 2017 Australian Open after he beat Rafa in the final. Murray and Novak were the two that everyone was expecting to get to the end of the tournament, and they both kind of had shock losses early, and it was the comeback story. Federer had a couple of amazing wins on the way to the final, and watching Federer and Rafa in a period where people thought they were both done, and that was an epic 5-set match that Federer went on to win. I remember staying up to watch. I didn't watch it live here, but I watched it live on TV, and that was quite a special one. And then the other one that comes to mind is Hewitt and Baghdadis finishing at 4:30 in the morning. I can't remember the year now. But
I remember that. Yeah, I reckon it would have been mid to late thousands, no? Like 8 or 9 maybe, or even 6, 7?
The court was blue, so it would have been probably around,
I can't remember that, but I do. Marcos Baghdadis, I remember that from the Australian Open many, many years ago. There's been some characters along the way. He was certainly one of them that encapsulated the Australian audience. The other one is the scoreboard moment, which is a moment in your life which is pretty vivid to you, and you're like, oh, I remember that. And from that moment, things kind of changed.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I mean, I touched on it very briefly before. It wasn't that long ago, but we managed this Bill Gates book in 2023. He came, and we didn't know who was coming, and there was quite a bit of organisation on the back end, and we knew there was security involvement, and then we got to meet the people that were organising the package, and then we got to meet Bill and his family, and took him out on court. The first time I met him was to have a tennis hit with him, and this is someone who's obviously had a huge influence in the world, and is a pretty known person, very, very intelligent. And the fact that I had his full attention while I was coaching is quite daunting. You got someone like that you're talking to, that you're trying to explain, angles of the racket, or you're trying to explain footwork. And I had his attention for a full hour, and the session finished, and then his head of security called me and said, they want to do that again tomorrow and the next day if you're available. And it sort of showed me the impact of tennis and sport, and how lucky I am that I grew up playing that, and the access to people and talent that I've had off the back of the IP of the event, and my involvement with the sport has been huge. But the fact that you can be an expert in your domain, and you can get attention of people, and I think that was a big confidence boost for me, the fact that I could sit with him for an hour and teach him something, or it felt like I could teach him something of value. Then really sort of shifted the way that I approached the whole sales cycle for the team. We started really preferencing in person. We started looking at maybe seeing if we can get people out on court as a way of introducing them to the Australian Open. And it was a big shift in the way that we approached what we do here.
Yeah, that's fascinating in regards to someone that, I suppose, who has got this incredible brain, but that was like fixated on trying to improve their tennis game.
Yeah, it was all, for that hour that we were out on court, he wanted to get as much information from me as humanly possible, so that he could get 1% better.
And now, speaking of sponsors, Scoreboard's picked up a great partner in Swyftx, a Brisbane-based crypto platform, and they've come on board to help us grow and tell stories about the game of sport, and also into business. The bucket list is a new question that I ask people, which is powered by Swyftx. Is an event that you'd love to attend to that you haven't attended to yet in the sporting realm?
Oh, that's a good question as well. There's so many events to pick one. I mean, the World Cup comes to mind, but if I had to pick one, it would be. I've really gotten into golf lately.
Oh, okay. And, right. Yeah,
love playing golf, love watching golf. It drives my wife insane. She doesn't get it. But something like the President's Cup, a big event that gets all the best players together. Going to watch a President's Cup would be pretty incredible. And there's one coming to Australia pretty soon as well. So
I was going to say, how'd you go in the Masters watching that?
what a finish! What a putt to finish! Yeah, that was incredible. I mean, every major sporting event is unique, and golf and tennis seem to be the two sports that can get me out of bed to watch. But yeah, Masters was.
I was going to say, what was your feeling after the 18th miss? What were you thinking?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it was good to see Rory win.
Yep.
He deserved the Masters.
The 11th go. Yep.
Yeah, it looked like it was going to. It looked like he was going to choke again.
Oh yeah, I videotaped it on the TV that we're watching it on the 18th, and my hands were sort of like shaking filming it. And then when he missed, he like the hands like, oh no, and like I don't know whether to delete that or not because it was like, oh, the heart sank. But then come in the extra hole, you're like, oh my goodness, wow, what a from that moment, 12 minutes ago to now where it is to do that putt to cool under pressure, you're like, wow, that's taken a lot of resilience.
Yeah, no, he deserved it. It was great to see.
Daniel, thank you so much for sharing your story about what you do in tennis in Australia and how things have changed. Your 16 and a bit years at the at Tennis Australia, your role in creating the Australian Open to be one of the premier sporting events in the world, and what you do. I congratulate you, and I wish you all the best for the coming tournaments. It's getting, as I said earlier, it's getting bigger and better. It's an iconic event in the Australian calendar, and looking forward to following the progress. And if there's anything that Scoreboard can do along the way, or very, very happy to help.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been a lot of fun, and hopefully we'll see you down in Melbourne.
Yes, actually, no. It's if you want to talk about the bucket list, it's up there for sure. Thanks, Daniel.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks a lot, Chris.